Moving on, Arabic media celebrating the change in Israel's government. The question is, are they celebrating with us or at Israel's expense? This as now former Prime Minister Netanyahu calling the new government's foreign policy weak, which in turn is raising questions of how Arab states are viewing the new Bennett-Lapid coalition. So joining me now to explain is Middle East expert and lecturer at Bar-Ilan University, Dr. Mordechai Kedar. Dr. Kedar, thank you so much for joining us. Now, how is this change in government being perceived by Arab media? It seems conflicting, as Bennett is seen as either a protege of Netanyahu's or the head of the unity government, including an Arab party.
Well, you could compare it to what happens in the Israeli media. There are people who love the change, and there are people who mourn this change. The same thing is the Arab world. Those who actually acknowledged the power of Netanyahu and his ability to influence American and Russian presidents and decision makers definitely mourn his leaving because they are afraid of Iran and they are afraid of all kinds of terrorism, which Netanyahu was very decisive against. While others who did not like the decisiveness of Netanyahu and his influence on international decision makers definitely celebrate his leaving, but some of them are afraid of Bennett because some of them think that Bennett is more right-wingish than Netanyahu. So it's you can see all kinds of reactions in the Arab world. Nobody really knows what will be in the future because there is no prophet in the media, and so everybody tries to predict something, but nothing is based on facts.
All right, so that's interesting because now Netanyahu is asserting that the new government is having a weak foreign policy. Do his claims ring true at all, especially with the change of the guard in the Israeli government? Do you see Arab states trying to take advantage of the new government? Again, you said that there are conflicting thoughts on this matter.
Well, again, you expect me to be a prophet and to expect what will be the reaction of, let's say, Meretz, the left-wingish, or even the Islamic movement, to all kinds of policies which reflect right-wingish thinking in the government. What will be their reaction? Will they stay in spite of the right-wingish policies of the government, or will they threaten to leave or actually leave? If they leave, they actually lose all the achievements which they have. And the Islamic movement definitely has very, very significant achievements by joining the coalition. The question is, how long can they take all kinds of policies which are against their ideology and their thinking? And this definitely I cannot predict because they never told me what their plans are.
So what are Arabic media sources saying again, though, about the inclusion of the Islamist Ram party in the coalition? Is it at all effective in dispelling the libel of Israel being an apartheid state, for example?
Well, again, it depends on which media you read and or watch, and what is the agenda of the person who speaks or writes. If he is against the Muslim Brotherhood, so he actually makes fun out of Israel for getting in bed with the Muslim Brotherhood, as if here in Israel we don't know what this organization is. This actually you can find very largely in Egypt, because in Egypt, as you might know, first of all, the Muslim Brotherhood are illegal, all of them. And 2 days ago, an Egyptian court inflicted death penalty to 12 leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. Death penalty. So here in Egypt, they hang them up, and here in Israel, they are in the government. So many Egyptians actually make fun out of Israel. What? Don't you know what this organization is? What do they stand for? What is their agenda? What do they want from Israel? They don't want Israel to be at all. So some of the Egyptian anti-Muslim Brotherhood actually make fun out of Israel for this government, which is aligning itself with the Muslim Brotherhood. Others who are siding with the Muslim Brotherhood definitely think it's a good idea, because this way the Muslim Brotherhood can take over the Israeli public opinion, or the public sphere, or even the decision making. So it depends on who writes and who talks in the Arab media. And as you know, in many cases, Arab media today are open to all kinds of ideas, conflicting ideas. There are arguments, and it's okay. They live with this very, very well.
All right, well, with all the different opinions and the speculations, we'll have to see, as with other things, just how things play out in real life. Dr. Mordechai Kedar, thank you so much for joining us.
Have a good evening.